everybody. How are you all doing today? I'm just waiting on Alex to come back. I've asked him to print me something from my photos to show you. And he's at the printer, so he might be around. Anyway, I hope you're all great today. Thank you for joining me. If you are joining me from Dunbarney, this will help you with your art lesson that I've asked you to do with your PowerPoint today. If you're not from Dunbarney, it's okay. If you're not from Dunbarney, hello, nice to see you again. This is our live session, however I am going to post it straight after on Facebook and straight after onto YouTube, so please don't worry if you've got other things going on today or if the bell goes and you need to disappear. Don't honestly stress about it. Hello Elizabeth, nice to see you. I've got Alex with me here. He's going to be taking part, which is great because then I get a real idea of what is going on at home and if there's any issues. Hi Josh, hi Isla. How nice to see you. I've really missed seeing you both. Really missing you both, but fingers crossed in a couple of weeks we'll be back together. So, at my school, just a wee bit of information of what's going on in my school just now. I work at Dunbarney Primary School. This isn't an official video, by the way. We don't approve Facebook with personal laws. This is my personal page. So, thank you for joining me on the personal page here. What's going to be happening in Dunbarney over the next couple of weeks? Primary 4, 5, 6 and 7 are going to be creating a project called Here, There and Everywhere. So for myself, I've been asked to come up with some art lessons that would tie in with that. So this week we're going to be thinking a little bit about the area that we live in. Now, Alex probably won't agree with me here, but we are really lucky to live where we live. Guys made a little face there. It's really beautiful. We've got so many fields around us, so much countryside around us. It's very different to where a lot of other places are in the world. So this week we're going to be really focusing on what's going on outside our windows. Okay, I'm from Bridgeverne, so I know exactly what Bridgeverne is like, and I now live in Abernethy, and we are surrounded by countryside. Next week, hi Grace, next week I want you to not think about where we live now, I want you to think about where this one would probably prefer to live, in a big, bustling, busy city. So somewhere like New York or Japan, Tokyo, a metropolitan city like that. The following week we're going really far away and we're going completely off this planet. So then we'll be going into space, which this one's very excited about. And I might actually, because it will be our last ever art lesson online, fingers crossed, we'll probably recreate one of the most popular lessons that we did in the last lockdown, which is the chalk space landscapes. Okay, so we've got a few exciting weeks coming up, but today we are focusing entirely on what is going on around us right now. Okay, so as I said, I know you guys are probably fed up looking at it. You probably think it's the most boring landscape in the world because you see it all the time. And when I was 10, 11, I didn't really care about the landscape, but now I really appreciate it. So, I want you to think about what's outside. I have printed off, these are genuinely, how to pull up those? These are genuinely some photographs I found on my phone yesterday, okay? And they're from different times of year. Some of them feature little people that I live with, or mother. So there's also some people in there. But the reason I printed all these four off is they've got something in common. So these show a really good sense of travelling into the distance in the photographs. That's called perspective, okay? Sometimes you might just take a photograph and it's completely across the screen. But in this, the lines of travel go to a certain point. So all of these have got what's called perspective in it. In this case, it's a one-point perspective. Because if you follow any of the features on these pictures with your finger and draw a line, eventually you'll find that the line meets all of the other lines. So if I take my finger here at this edge of this road, and if I was to travel up here with my, imagine I was drawing with a pencil, stop, and then if I went to here and drew a line from there, the lines would eventually meet. And it's the same with these trees. Okay, if you look at these rows of trees, they also meet, and they also meet. In fact, Dunbarney, I'm going to share a little secret with you. I think this photograph is very similar to one that Mrs. Stewart took last week. Mrs. Stewart, are you on today? I loved, you did a photograph last week of when you were out walking. of the winter fields in Abernethy, and I remember it looking a bit like that, and I loved it. Okay, so all of these have got a really, really nice sense of perspective. So today we're going to do a really, really simple, one-dimensional, one point, you're distracting me with the rubber, 1 point perspective sketch, okay? Thinking about fields and countryside. If you want to add buildings and if you want to make it your street, that's totally fine. You go away and do that. But for us today, in this session, we're just going to do some fields. Good morning, Mr. Johnson. I hope you're having some well-deserved time away from your screen today. Right, let's get started. So the first thing that you're going to do, this is a really, really, really important thing, is you're going to decide, you, the artist, not me, you're going to decide where you want your horizon line to be. Now, often, as an art teacher, what I see when I ask people to draw a landscape is they do this thing where at the top of the page they draw the sky, at the bottom of the page they draw the land, and then in the middle they have this big space of nothing. Okay? But if you really, really think about the way that our planet is, the horizon is where the land bumps into the sky. There's no space in between. So what I want you to do first of all is decide where you want your horizon line to be on your page. Now, also think about what way up do you want your paper to be. Do you want it to be landscape, this way, and have a long horizon? Or do you want it to be portrait and have a shorter horizon, but more space for those lines? Because my photographs are also down, because my photographs that we've got are all landscape, I'm going to go landscape, but just you go whatever way you want. It won't matter. We're looking for variety here anyway. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is, with a pencil, you're going to draw your horizon line. Now, before I do it, I just want to talk to you a little bit about my pencil. I'm going for a really, really hard pencil. It's a 5B. When I say hard, I mean the line's going to be hard. The lead's actually really soft, it crumbles. And I like to use a soft pencil when I'm drawing, when I'm sketching, because it's really smudgy and it rubs out much easier. So I've gone for a really, really soft pencil. It's a 5B, it's got a little number on there. Most of the pencils that we use in class are just an HB, a normal pencil. That will be fine. That's totally fine. But what I want to say to you about this is, to begin with, I want your lines to be really light. You need to rub a lot of these lines out, okay, later on. So don't draw, I'm just going to show you the difference, don't draw really heavy with your pencil. I don't want to see that. I want to see, I'm trying to do this really simple, a nice light line. That line rubs out really easily, that line doesn't. And in fact, if I rub my finger over that, you won't be able to do this at home, but if I rub my finger over that, I've actually dented the paper, it's so hard. Okay? So trying to rub that out, can I get the rubber back, please? Trying to rub that out really hard, and actually it still shows up when you try and rub it out. But this one, the light one, vanishes. Okay, so I want you to get into this habit of, if you're sketching, try not to press really hard at the beginning. Try and do lots of little light lines. Sometimes it can look a bit messy, and sometimes the lines don't connect, but they rub out really easily. Okay, so I want you to try and get into the habit of that. If you want to, for a couple of minutes while I'm leathering, on the back of your paper, just practice lines. See how hard you can make your line go. See what a medium line might look like. See what a really light line would look like. Maybe try and curve your lines. Maybe try and draw some shapes using sketching lines. Okay, so I want you to really get into that habit of just sketching. There's a huge difference between sketching and drawing. Right, turn my paper on now, I'm ready for a mess. So I'm going to decide where I want my horizon line to be. Okay, so that's the bit where the land meets the sky. So I'm just going to draw a really, really, really simple line here. Right across the page, yeah, I'll go for it. Now, if you look at that really closely, it's a bit squint, it overlaps, and it's a bit messy. But it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's my horizon line drawn. So I'm just going to give Alex a few seconds to do his. And don't use a ruler for this. At this point, don't use a ruler. It doesn't matter, it's got a little bit of squint, and nature lines are never straight. That's a man-made machine thing. Perfect. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Right, now what I want you to do is decide where you want your vanishing point to be. Now, the easiest thing I can recommend is to actually put it on your horizon line. That would be the easiest way. If you put it up in the sky, it will still work the same, but then you might, if you start to add trees and things, have to then draw up past the horizon line. So what I would recommend, just for now, while you're getting to the swing of this, for primary 4, this might be the first time you've ever done anything like this, just put a little dot onto your horizon line. Now, I am just going to press a little bit harder than I'm recommending you to do at home, because I want you to be able to see this. Don't worry about me. I can rub out, or I can go over the top of my lens with my black pen later. Okay, so that's step 1. So this, and if you want to put a wee reminder there, that's called your vanishing point. That's where all those lines from the top of the trees, from the bottom of the trees, from the walls, from the road will meet. Okay? Right, so that's your vanishing point. I'll be back to front for you. Okay, happy? And by the way, on these 2 lovely examples, I've got to show you this as work that we did a couple of years ago now. You'll notice, no, I didn't do it, but some of the kids did in one of my other classes, not in Dumbarton, another school. If you look at these, the vanishing points actually are not in the middle of the canvas or in the paper. They're over at the sides a little bit. So if you want to do that, go for it. You don't have to put it smack bang in the middle. Okay? Right, because we're doing our landscape in Bridgeburn, and because we're doing our landscape in Abernethy in Perthshire, there's so many hills around about this place. I know every time I go on my bike, what's the house? Yeah, oh, this is not good. Good fun to come down, but not good fun to go up. So, what I want you to do now is, that's your horizon line, but the hills I want you to have coming out of that horizon line. So, just keep it quite natural. If you want to go more mountains, go more mountains. If you want to keep them quite curved, go curved. I want you to have some mountains or hills in the background. Now, try and have a layered effect to them. Okay, what I mean by that is, try and have some that are close to you. So I just show you this first and then come off. So I'll just draw some curved lines just now. Okay? Is that okay at home? Yeah? But then behind them, have some little ones creeping in the background. Okay? And these, when it comes to shading and colouring in, as you travel into the distance, the colour will get weaker and it won't be as shaded as hard. So these, the ones that are closest to you, the colour will be darker, clearer and sharper. Everything gets a little bit bloody into the distance. Okay, you don't see things as clearly. So for example, if you had a tree and it was really close to you, you would be able to see all the bark, you'd see all the texture. But if there was a tree that was maybe away down at the bottom of your garden, you might only see it as lines. So think about how your mind plays tricks on you. If you walked over to the tree, you would see it. Right, Mr. Perfectionist got the rubber out and he's walking away, but thankfully he's drawn it so lightly the lines are just vanishing, because he doesn't believe this, but he's a very good sketcher. He really has got a nice touch with this drawing. Okay, right, well Alex is finishing off that. If you want to, up in the sky, you might want to have clouds, you might want to have a sun, you might want to have a point of interest. Again, that's up to you. Don't worry about the vanishing point at this point. That would just be happening naturally somewhere else. Now, for this lesson today, we are only going to do this in pencil. But when I disappear, we're going to colour these in. We've got oil pastels with us, and we've got a Sharpie pen there as well. But whatever you've got at home, you can go with. And in fact, you could leave it as a pencil drawing if you want. You don't have to do any colour to make this look effective. So you could just do it as a pencil drawing, or if you are really loving what you're doing, I know this one wants to colour it in, you could get some oil pastels on the go, you could paint it, you could have chalk, whatever you want. Do whatever you want, especially if you're one of my boys and girls. Do whatever you have at hand. And you can come back to it as well, you can come back to it later on. Just remember what I said about shading in the background, make that a little bit fuzzy in the background, but keep this bit down the bottom really strong. Right, he's still going with these mountains, so I'm going to get going. I'm just going to put a few clouds up in the sky there. Okay. Another thing about when you're sketching, think about the way that you hold your pencil. Okay? When you hold your pencil when you're sketching, you'll notice the way that I'm holding it is halfway. And my whole arm moves when I'm sketching. When you're writing, I've noticed when you're writing in class, we hold our pencil really low down, we hunch over, and we only really use our wrist. Okay, so if I write this, okay, I hardly move my arm. But if I'm sketching, I sit up in my chair, nice and loose. And actually, my whole arm moves sometimes. My whole wrist, my whole elbow, my whole shoulder. So when we sketch, our whole body changes. And we hold our pencil in a different way. You are done, and that's looking awesome. That's your beautiful. Okay, so we've got Alex's going on there. Very mountainous. Very mountainous. What part of Perthshire is that? It's okay for you, you're not a Dunfermline boy, you don't worry about it. Right, next up, so we've got our vanishing point. So what we're going to do next is we're going to imagine that this is a field. Let's go for a field today, okay? Or we could have a road. Let's go, or a road in the middle. Whatever we decide. Okay, so at the bottom of our page, we're just going to put two tiny, I'm going to make them harder than they need to be, two tiny little dots. That's where my road's going to go. And then this is when you need a ruler. Hello.
Can I put a road like that and then just like a square?
You can. Alex is asking if you can have his road go across the way. You can, but then that defeats the purpose of us doing a...
Yeah, but I'm going to make like grass.
You're going to have grass. Right, you go. It might get a bit confusing having overlapping shapes. Right, at this point we're going to get a ruler out. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to now line up my vanishing point with that little line at the bottom. I'm just going to draw a really light line. And then I'm going to do the same at the other side. Okay. So this will be my road, or it could be like a track, farm track. We've got two rulers, right? You can then. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some curves onto my road, and put some verge. So I'm now just going to think about the size that I want that to be. I want it to be the same size at a time. I'll put two more dots either side, and then I'm just going to line up my ruler again. But the ruler is going to meet the vanishing point. It stops at the vanishing point, by the way. Please don't bring it beyond the vanishing point. Don't draw the lines right up into the sky. And again, I'm going to draw it much harder than I'm expecting you to be doing at home, because of the fact that I want you to be able to see it. But at home, draw it really, really lightly, because you might rub some of these out. So for example, if you are now going to draw a car on that, you're going to want to rub out the lines of the road underneath it. I can repeat the steps, Jackson, that is no problem at all. Right, so number one, I'm right from the beginning, I'm assuming. Number one, horizon line. Number two, because we live in Perthshire, series of hills, maybe some smaller ones really far in the distance. Think about your sky, okay? And then somewhere on that horizon line, I want you to place a vanishing point, okay? And that's about it. We're just talking about this road now, okay? What's the pathway line? Right, you go. Now you'll notice on this sketch here, look how wide that one is. So the person here has decided to make their road almost the width of the paper. You can totally go with that if you want. Okay. So the width of the road at the bottom is entirely up to you. It could be that wide, it could go as wide as there. But then it means that you need to think about the size of the objects next to it. Right, are you okay? Oh, you've done that. I'm really, really doing this. Right, on either side of this now, I've got some ploughed fields. Tractor was out a few days ago getting some ploughed fields. So what I'm going to do along the bottom of my paper is I'm just going to put some lines for my tracks. Now, we're going to keep these really straight at the beginning, but actually you could go back over the straight line and make it a bit more curved when it comes to it. So now what I'm going to do, and you can do this with a ruler, or if you want to, if your eye's really good, you could go for it just by sketching that line, which would make it a bit more natural. Okay, so you could go for it. Or you could play it safe and line up your ruler with that vanishing point. So this is my ploughed field, which at the minute is just lines, but when I colour it in, when I shade it in, it's going to look much more effective. Can you get on over there? You okay? At the end of this, towards the end anyway, I'm going to put in a building. I'm going to show you how to do a building and get that going to the vanishing point as well. Now, I want to speak about what's going to happen next. If I'm doing this in the classroom, this is often what happens. People then stop because they've run out of paper on the bottom. What I want you to do is imagine that you've got more paper. So what you're going to keep doing is imagining that the paper keeps going. So you're going to keep that vanishing point in those lines out from the vanishing point to the edge of the paper. So you end up with that. Okay, I hope that makes sense at home. What I might do actually just shade that a little bit. Just so it doesn't look like part of the field. Right, Alex is still going with his lens, so I'm assuming at home you're still doing that as well. So I'm just going to slow down for a few minutes while you're finishing off. You okay?
Can I start that? Can I just do that?
Go for it. Now the problem with shading in is if you decide then to have something on that board, like a person or something, you're going to have to rub that out. Hi Abby, I hope you're well today. Abby, your Valentine's doodle heart last week that Mum's got as her profile photo, just fantastic, and I know she framed it and put it up on a shelf in your house. Wow, that must mean a lot. In our house we make so much art that when art goes up that means it's really special. Paris's Paul Klee picture from yesterday, it's sitting up on the shelf just now. Did a lovely job of that. Right, so we've got my road, we've got my fields. So next up what I'm going to do, I'm just going to show you how to maybe not have a field on this side, but I'm going to show you how to do trees and stuff. So, what's wrong here? Okay, so in this one you'll notice there's some trees growing up from the side of the road. So what I'm going to do, first of all, just leave a little bit of space for them to grow out of. Well, I'm going to put a little bit, no, I've already got verge. Right, so what I'm now going to do is, the top of the trees, you'll notice doesn't naturally come down to the vanishing point, and that is purely because of the fact that they're all different heights. But what you'll find is they'll still come down to the vanishing point, but they'll have different heights to deal with. So don't just draw a straight line down and make all your trees the same height. Trees grow at different heights. But the base of the trees, the bottom where the trunk is, it will. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to draw an imaginary line where I want my trees to come from. So that line there is going to be where my trees are going to come from. And what I'm going to now do is I'm just going to place a tree trunk up here. Okay. Now it's going to be quite large because it's closest to me. So actually what will start to happen is it will probably overlap a lot of those hills. But that's okay because Mrs. Cochrane drew so lightly they can now rub out. It's winter, so there won't be any foliage on the trees. Okay, so we've got one tree growing up there. Now what I'm going to do is further along my pathway, shape a little bit, along my pathway, going out there, I'm going to draw another tree. Okay? Which is also, the base of it is on this line. Okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a curved line along the bottom of the tree. Have some grass coming out of it as well, maybe a bit of shading. So this tree is then going to grow up behind my first tree that I drew. The height of the tree, it won't matter. It will need to go down to the vanishing point, but it doesn't need to be bigger or smaller than the other one because, as we all know, all trees grow at different sizes. It's not like it's a row of terrace houses where they all have to be the same height. Trees are different. Alex has a mum that does that as well, Jackson. Jackson's just saying something about his mummy. I don't think she's going to appreciate it. And I know he's laughing at this right now. Right, one thing I want to say about these trees that I'm drawing just now, I'll show you a photo in a minute. If you think when the trees go further away, they'll get thinner, the trunks will get thinner as well. The height will get smaller, okay, because they're further in the distance, but they'll also get thinner and you won't see as much detail. So this tree at the beginning that I sketched has got branches. This one at the back is just basically a shape, and I'll show you. Yeah, you can put it. I'm showing a real-time photograph exactly what I mean. So this one, you can barely even make it out, but this one here, look at all the detail in that. So think a little bit about when you're drawing at the beginning, at the front of your paper, it will be a lot more textured, a lot more detailed. And you need to find that one. Right, now my trees are overlapping the horizon lines. I need to get my rubber in and rub that out. Of course, if you're colouring in, the colour will cover over all those lines, so don't worry about it. Okay, I hope that's making sense almost. I've got my road, I've got my trees, I've got my field on that side. This side I'm just going to maybe have, oh, I don't know, should I maybe just keep it a bit more flat with some grass and stuff? I don't know what to do there. I was going to show you how to do a house, wasn't I? Okay, I mean you could have buildings in the background, you could have fences. Oh, a fence would be a good one to draw. Right, I'll show you to do a fence. You okay? You happy? So on this one here, her hands is walking along the path, there's actually a fence that runs along there. So if that's my suggestion, little. So the thing to do, much like the trees, they'll have a flat bottom, but they need to be placed in the same position. So down this side, I'm just going to put a line where I want my fence to be coming out of. Okay. Now the height of my first fence post is this. That's my first fence post. But a fence, the posts are always the same height. So now that I've decided that's the height of my fence post, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a line to the vanishing point from the top of that fence post. And again, I'm pressing really hard so you can see it at home. Okay, so there it is there. You'll see those lines coming out of there. I've drawn them hard, I don't want you to that at home. Now along that, then what I'm going to do is really, really, really simple after this. You just place a fence post along each one. And then put the tops on. Okay, very hard. So you see how they're coming along there? So that's how you would get your fence post. You would just draw that line along into the vanishing point, the top of the fence post, back along to the vanishing point, and then the straight lines that come down. And that's actually the same as doing buildings. Buildings would be exactly the same as that. The only thing to remember is, as you go further into the distance, the fence posts, it'll happen, they will get smaller, but also the spaces in between them will get narrower. Okay, so it'll be wide at the beginning, then it'll get narrower and narrower, until eventually you can't see them anymore, because they've reached that vanishing point. So that's a nice way to do a fence. Okay? Everyone's okay at home? Good stuff. And of course you have a line that goes along that fence, with a bit in the middle, a bit of wood that goes along the middle. So it's fenced off Mrs. C's field now. I'm going to have to address those lines that are going in between the fence posts. I don't want those to be there. So I'm going to rub all of those out. And remember, these are all options. You don't have to go with that. You could have just done a striped field here. Have maybe a bar at the top. If you are watching from P5, we did this when we had Mr. Johnson last year, and you just did a field and just had lines in it, and it was really simple, and then we coloured it in and it was lovely. Okay, so we've got my fence, we've got my trees, we've got a soft field, we've got a ploughed field there, we've got trees and fields in the background. I guess the last thing we could maybe do, this is quite tricky, is a building. Okay, so I have got on this side here some buildings that are coming out the side. Okay, so what we just decide to do first of all is, do we want the front of the building to be facing us, or do we want it to be a side? I like to do a path instead of a fence. You can do whatever you want. I'm just showing you how to do a one-point perspective. You chuck in whatever you want there. I'm not sure if it's Isla, I'm not sure if it's Josh. It could be both of you. You do whatever you feel like. Alex's is looking nothing like mine. Okay, you've just done a road and ploughed fields at either side. What's grown out of your field? Is it brown? Is it flowers? Has it got crops in it? One thing I would say about when you're actually doing the field, think about the way that the field will work. And normally you'll have big little tracks, narrow tracks, and then you'll have a space, and then there'll be narrow again where the tractor wheels are. So think about it like that as well. You don't have to just do them equally spaced like Mrs. C did. And when you shape them, when you colour them in, you could even put curved shapes over the top of those lines, just even a hint of them in places, which would make that field look like it's bumpy, not smooth. So if you just choose a few of your lines and just put in a few curved lines from one side to the other, I don't know if you can see that okay, so from there to there, from there to there, it'll just make it look a bit more textured. It'll make it look a bit more realistic. Right, I got distracted there. I'm so sorry, I got so distracted there with that. Right, I'm going to show you your building and then I'm going to leave you to colour these in. I think we've got enough to do today. And we've got an assembly as well. I think we've done an assembly actually. Yeah, you should have done. Right, a house. I'm going to plonk it right down in this space here because that's the base place for it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to draw the front of the house, and I'm not going fancy with this. I'm just going to go really, really, really simple. Yeah. Taste on the back of your paper, sweet. Now, I'm not going to want that cloud field to be there, so that's going to have to rub out, but it's okay because, as I said earlier, I sketched it, so the lines are nice and light. Oh, and by the way, apologies. You'll notice I'm using peach paper. I have totally run out of white cartridge paper. I need to go to school and get some, or I need to go online and order some. Not nice drawing paper. Okay. So this is just, it could be a barn if you want it to be a barn. That's just the front of my building. Okay? Now, what I need to do now is think about the side wall of the building. So now that I've drawn the front of the building, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, that vanishing point is not disappearing. On the left hand side, I'm just going to draw some lines that come off of the two left hand side corners. So I've gone for that, and I've taken that up to my vanishing point. Okay, so that's going to be my side wall. Now all I need to do is then draw for my side wall a line that connects them. And it needs to be in the same direction, parallel to the line on the front of the building. So you've got that coming down. Okay, now if this was going to be a cube, we would then put a line across there and a line down to there. But it's not, it's going to have a roof on it. Okay, so it's going to get more complicated than that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to rub out my field lines there, so it's a bit clearer for you to see. And also, don't need those vanishing points there anymore, so the vanishing lines can go away as well. Okay? Right, we're going to have a roof. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw, and you could measure this properly if you want to, but I'm just going to draw a triangle comes up on the top of my building. I'm going to rub out that line there, unless that's a feature on your side wall. Okay, so I've got that down there. And you can already probably see what's going to happen next to the top of my roof. I'm going to bring that line from there all the way to that vanishing point. You see that? All the way to there. And line up my ruler again. I'm going to draw it in. Okay. I won't see it because it'll blend in with the field. And then from here to there, I'm going to connect that, but I want to try and make it parallel to this line here. So I'm just going to bring that up to there. By the way, this is optional and it's tricky. This is almost S1. So please don't worry about popping this in. This is just extra. I just knew, Alex was asking me earlier, there's houses there and he wanted to know how to do them. Okay? Right, then what you need to do is just pop some windows in, pop some doors in. But the thing to remember about that is the top of them, here we go, goes towards that vanishing point. They're not flat. If you instantly go like this, if you instantly go like that, it starts to look a bit wonky and it doesn't look realistic anymore. You need to take the top of your door and line it up to that vanishing point. Hello, sweetheart.
This is really good. I can't push the papers in.
Peel the paper off.
Okay.
If you peel the paper off, it's okay.
Wait, that weird.
No, not at all. What are we saving it for? Are you needing? Don't peel the whole paper off, just peel a bit off the top. If you peel paper off your oil pastels, then they just, the boys and girls will tell you this from my school, they melt in your hand when you use them and turn to mush. Yeah. Right, so there we go. So I've got my door in. So you see that's following you up to there. Isla, colour it in with whatever you want, whatever colours you want and whatever you have at home, and you don't even need to colour it in, you could just shade it like I've done. You don't need to colour this in at all. Add a bit of colour. Actually, it's you. You're going to want to add colour. Okay. Right, I think that's about it. I didn't plan on putting trees in the building into this, by the way. I just planned on showing you to the fields, and that was it. And if you've done that, like his lordship over here, that's good enough for me. Okay, it was just a simple demonstration on how you can do a one-point perspective. And we've covered doing trees. Just remember to have them straight at the bottom. Okay, we've done trees, we've done a road, we've done a ploughed field, we've done a horizon line in the distance, and we've done a little building there that you could make as fancy as you want. It could have a garage on, could have windows, could have something on this end elevation here, you could put tiles on the roof, you could have a conservatory, you could put a car on here. But believe it or not, even if you were to draw the bonnet of a car, the edges of that car would also go up to that vanishing point. So whatever, a lorry, whatever you do, has to come up to that vanishing point. I knew you would get the colour. Right, there's loads of examples that I've put on the page to inspire you. There's photographs, and if you're in Miss Stewart's hub just now, annoy her and ask her to show you the photos she took last week, 'cause it's beautiful. Look, even that bench, even that little bench, if you follow it with your finger, vanishing point. I'm going to be saying that in my sleep tonight, vanishing point, vanishing point. So all these photographs as well that were on my phone, vanishing point. And see, when you start looking at vanishing points, you'll see them on everything. And they're really simple to do. You just need a ruler and mathematical brain sometimes. Right, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to go and share this now on the page and put a secure link on your Seesaw so you can watch it that way. I'm also going to put it onto YouTube as well. I'll put a secure link on that. So I hope it all pans out okay. If you are a Dunbarney boy and girl, if you are a Dunbarney boy or girl, remember this is just one of the options. If you want to draw out your window, you can. If you want to do a bird's eye view flying over the local area, you can. Get on Google Earth, have a look and see what you can see. Get some really nice things that you could turn into a painting or a picture. If you have loved it, Isla, or everyone else, don't forget, you've not got, this is free choice today from what I understand. So if you want to do more than one of these and submit them, I'm totally happy to look at all of them. Right, I'm going to head off now. I'm going to go and get a cup of tea and tidy up the mess on this table. Lots of love. I will see you all very soon. And thank you again. And hopefully see you next week for some urban art. Urban.
Dirty hand.
We're going to go urban next week. I'm going to do a graffiti name tag.
That sounds cool.
Banksy style.